Good afternoon. It's Tuesday, and I want to continue talking about Alpha Clash today. While we're talking about Alpha Clash, though, let's continue opening these packs, 'cause I still have quite a few from the most recent box that we opened. It's set 7 Ancient Alphas. I want to talk about Alpha Clash's contenders today. Maybe we can look for contenders while we're opening these packs, and I can give you some insight on how they work and what I like about them. Now, Alpha Clash, like many other card games, trading card games, is a combat style card game. So, you battle with your cards. The main objective is to reduce your opponent's life or HP to 0 or to deck them out while protecting your own. And the cool thing about Alpha Clash, which I believe a lot of major card games that is recently released right now does, is they focus on a character, like a leader of some kind. They call it Contender in Alpha Clash. Because I personally believe that TCGs, the main draw compared to board games and any other games, is self-expression, right? And if you're not just using generic cards, if you're focusing on building something around a character, like a contender here in Alpha Clash, you make that deck an expression of who you are, right? Not to go philosophical here, but just to give you a general idea on how I look at contenders and why I like Alpha Clash's contenders, because it doesn't use the typical color system to give you an idea on how the game functions, right? Just to give an example, I'm not saying it's bad in One Piece TCG, but the mechanics is quite generic per color, right? It's not about the character, really. If you're playing black, it's more on removal, right? Cost-based removal. If you're playing purple, it's about manipulating the Dawn deck. If it's blue, it's about drawing cards and bouncing stuff. You know what I'm saying, right? In Alpha Clash TCG, it's more on what is the contender that you like to pilot, and what is the strategy behind that specific contender, right? For example, this dude, it's called the Clash card. It's not necessarily a contender, but it's like the characters that you put on the deck that actually does the majority of the battle for you. They attack and defend for you to protect your contender card. And they feature specific characters as well that most of our contenders, some do not have a contender card yet, but most of them have a contender card. For example, this one is Kheprius, right? Kheprius is an alpha. That means he's a superpowered being, right? And he's from the past of the current timeline. His aesthetic is it's like an Egyptian pharaoh kind of vibe here, and he is using this scarab counters to manipulate your opponent's cards, mainly bouncing cards, right? And it's actually quite unique for Kheprius. I don't think there's any other contender that leverages this kind of strategy aside from him. Maybe in the future there will be there will be other contenders that does that can synergize together with Kheprius, that maybe you can put on your Kheprius deck as well, or you can put Kheprius on their decks. But right now only Kheprius does that. Another character here is Fang. Fang here is a dragon, and you can see it here in its affiliation. But his mechanic is a temper counter. It's a kind of counter that you put on your equipments, because Fangin is a dragon with a sword. That's a sword, right? And he tempers, makes your weapons better, and he equips himself, the contender, with weapons, or your characters, and the temper counter gives it additional benefits, right? So mainly when you build Kheprius, you want to revolve around creatures, clash cards with equipped weapons, and that were upgraded by Fangin's temper counter ability. Let's move on. I talked about how awesome Alpha Clash's artworks are in another video. Maybe I'll link it in the top right corner. You can just click it if you want to have a conversation about the artworks. But just the general idea is that the artworks on these cards, especially the more recent sets, are taken directly from the comic book that this trading card game is based off of. So instead of having pin-ups, having generic artworks that shows the character in action and all that, you actually see the pages of the comic books in the card itself. So that's why there are speech bubbles like that. Because if you have the comic book, you can actually see specifically in which part of the story in that comic book this card is from, right? See, Ancient Scarab. That is a relic, like an artifact, right? In Magic, that does something. And for Kheprius, it puts a scarab counter on on a clash card. And like what I said earlier, Kheprius's unique mechanic is manipulating cards that has the scarab counter. All right, let's move on. Fang Yin again. Fang Yin. See, this gets +1/+0 for each temper counter on a weapon you control. So the more you make your weapons better, the stronger Fang Yin's cards become, right? That's the mechanic. This is Absence. It's one of the stronger characters. This is the rare card of the pack. And it's another contender, a character in the game. Absence is about banishing cards. So that's exile. That's removing from the game mechanic of this game. And Absence is a unique character that gets advantage whenever you banish cards that supports him as a contender. And sometimes I believe on using the contender you can play cards from the banish zone as well. Typically you can't use those cards anymore, but the absence, if you're using the absence as contender, you have the ability to do so. Oh, we have a foil at the back. A double foil, wow, that's a token. A double-sided token. A War Minion and a Centaurian. And then this is the other foil. It's a common card. See, it has the arrow word on it, right? That's a mechanic of another character, Windhoof. Windhoof is a white aligned character, but sometimes green as well. And what it does is it uses equipment as well, but since he's an archer, his mechanic is more on working with cards that has arrows on their name. So most of the time he can recur cards in your trash in the Oblivion that has the word arrow on it, or he gets extra benefit if you play cards with the word arrow on it, which is really cool, right? It's not just about colors, the major game mechanic. Sometimes the contender has a synergy just because a specific word is on the card, right? And that's really cool, I think. Here's another card, Thragor. Thragor is another contender in the game. This one is a clash card though. Thragor is like the Frankenstein of the game, and he's really beefy, he's really tanky, he's one of the highest health in the game, and you can mill yourself out actually while playing him, because one of his abilities allows him to protect himself from damage by milling, or by banishing, or by diminishing, that's the term that the game uses, removing the top card of your deck to Oblivion, right? Oblivion is the graveyard of the game. So that's Thragor. Iron Piston as well is somehow related to Thragor, but Iron Piston is it cares more about how many cards are in your Oblivion. His cards gets benefit if you have 10 or 15 more cards in your Oblivion, those kind of stuff, right? Cadavos is the scientist kind of character that created Thragor, at least as far as I know. And he cares about recycling cards from your Oblivion. Like, you can discard something from your hand and then you can revive something from your Oblivion. It's like a necromancer kind of character, right? So if you like that kind of vibe, Cadavros could be the character for you, right? Let's move. Anzudak. Anzudak is a dragon character. This is Anzudak, right? He's a dragon. And his abilities revolves around the mechanic Wrath. Wrath is it's like a kicker on his cards, wherein if you play something with Wrath, you can return a card from your hand that has a dragon affiliation back to the bottom of your deck, and it gets extra benefit, right? And because Fang Yin is a dragon as well, there's a lot of Anzudak decks that adds Fang Yin to their deck as well, because you can use Fang Yin's cards as a fodder for the Wrath ability to triggers, because he's a dragon as well. Those are the kinds of interactions that you get with these cards, but the mechanic itself is tied most of the time specific to that specific contender. There are these kinds of cards as well. We can talk about them in the future. They're Clash Grounds, that's what they call them, but they're basically field spells, right? And there can only be one field spell at a time. That's another Anzudak card. That's really cool. It's a rare card, and I love the artwork. That's awesome. That's another uncommon card of the absent, and this is the portal. We can talk about the portal in another video. It's something that was added in set 2, and it has been in the game since. It's an extra mechanic that manipulates the effects of cards based on the status of the portal. If it's closed, or if it's open. Because the idea of Alpha Clash is, there's this otherworldly being that goes to different planets, and then they wreak havoc, creates the superpowered beings become heroes and villains, and then they fight to the death, basically. And the portal is one of the thingies that comes up, because some of these characters that travels across the universe to go to these clash grounds. That's the term. That's the name of the second set where the portals came from, where alphas or some superpowered beings battle each other, right? Let's see. Oh, Kilimanjaro. Kilimanjaro is an alpha. Maybe we can talk about the affiliations of each card in another video. Let me know if that is something you're interested to hear about. But Kilimanjaro is another contender in the game. Kilimanjaro is one of the top 8 in the previous Progenitor's Gambit. And its ability triggers 1 if you discard something from your hand. So basically, it draws and discards something. Its mechanics mainly draws you a card from your deck and then discards something. And then his card triggers off of discards. Some of his cards has abilities as well. If you have a certain number of cards in your graveyard, much like Iron Piston, that's why Iron Piston and Kilimanjaro cards work together really well. But his shtick is mainly on discarding cards, right? The cards on your Oblivion is just a bonus. Chaotic Unmaking is one of the new cards that everyone is brewing around because it has a really cool mechanic where your opponent loses life when they draw a card so long as the portal is open. Again, the portal I talked about earlier. It does something when it manipulates what other cards does based on its status, if it's open or closed. And in this card, if the portal is open, whenever your opponent draws a card, they lose a life. It's another way of winning the game without even attacking your opponent, right? Alright, let's move on. Magnate. Yeah, this is one of the older characters. He's not really featured that much in this set, in the previous set, because it's in the past. But Magnate is a present-day character. He's a Homelander kind of guy, right? If you watch the Boys. I actually piloted the Magnate, the second contender, Magnate contender, to a Pro Tour win last year. But, that's a story for another day. But I really like Magnate. Magnate is he has 2 contenders so far. Because characters can have different kinds of contenders. If they're given a new printing, it's not the same as the previous card. It's a new version. And the original version is more defensive. Your clash card gets an additional defense, and you can use him to make your opponent discard a card. It's not really. The game is still at that point figuring itself out. So it's not really the best unique design yet, but the second one is awesome. It's the first contender that has 2 attack instead of 1. So it's super strong offensively and defensively, because if your opponent attacks your contender, they die because you have 2 defense and 2 attack instead of 1. And it benefits from using action cards. I want to talk about that more in the future. Maybe we can talk about a deck of my version 2 contender that won the Pro Tour last year. Alright, Valen Solariel. I talked about this in a previous video, so let's just not talk about her now. Sinai. Sinai is one of the newer contenders, and it's a fan favorite. It hasn't won anything yet, but it has a really cool mechanic because he comes with his own weapon, the nanotech weapon of Tony Stark. It's a weapon token that comes with it, and when he does something based on when you attach it or gets that weapon gets unattached from your character cards. It's really cool. It's really, really cool. I know I'm not doing it any justice, but if you want to start playing Alpha Clash and you like that kind of mechanic where you have like this unique weapon that you can pass around between your characters and manipulate it throughout the game to give you advantages, I think Sinai could be good for you. Alright, ooh, that's another Sinai. It's a rare card. It's awesome. I love the foiling of these cards. And it's almost always full art, right? You don't see a border. It's full art. And man, I hope I can show you one right now, but the textless cards of Alpha Clash are awesome. They're the best looking cards that I've ever seen in all the card games that I've played. Ooh, we have another foil card. We have double foil. You have a foil rare and a foil common. See, it's a common card. I know it's foil, but it's just a common card. But look at how awesome and gorgeous that artwork is, right? It's taken straight from the comic book. That's the dragon, Anzudak, and that is the absence, right? So they're facing off each other, and that's something that you can learn from the story. See, this is the Kheprius' contender card that I'm talking about, and it's about scarab counters and bouncing your opponent's cards, right? And then the other one is Gearwin. Gearwin is my favorite so far in the newest set. I run her, and my brother run her as well in most recent Progenitor's Gambit, and we did great. We did well. We're gonna talk about that in another video. She's a defensive beast. Okay, her ability is very deceptive, right? You would think that she is gonna die because of how low her HP you allow it to be, how low you allow her HP to be, but in reality, her abilities triggers best if her HP is low and your opponent is desperate to kill you. It's a story for another day. I'll create another video about my deck of my Gearwin deck. Alright, let's open 2 more packs. Maybe next time we're gonna open a different set, not Ancient Alphas, because you know, sets feature specific contenders, and for this one, I believe there are like 8 contenders or so. And if we want to talk about some other contenders, maybe we can talk about another set. This is another character, Shadowblade. She has a contender of her own as well. She's a bounty hunter, an alpha hunter. Actually, she basically kills alphas. You know, they're not super powered beings. Unlike alphas that, you know, got superpower from basically the gods of the story, they hunt them. And Shadowblade's shtick is that she gets advantage through bounty counters that her cards put on opponent's cards, right? There's another one in the present timeline that does that. That's Linn, the Nanite assassin, that has her own contender card as well. So basically, Shadowblade is like the thousands of years ago version of Linn is in the present day, and their cards are quite synergistic, though those 2 contenders, both blue, have not really gotten any wins so far in major tournaments, but maybe you're the first one, you know, that can win using those cool contenders. Serio, one of the distributors of Alpha Clash here in the Philippines, from Toy Shogun, he loves Linn. And maybe, you know, if you're interested in building a Linn deck, you can let him know in the Discord. Maybe he can give you a deck list of some kind. I'll link the Discord, Alpha Clash Discord, in the doobly-doo. So, you know, you can talk to the community. If you're already playing the game, or if you're interested in playing the game, you can ask around there. So, you know, maybe you can ask where's the nearest store that supports Alpha Clash, right? What else? Ooh, another common foil. Ooh, another contender foil. That is awesome. Weber. I really like Weber. I want to talk about Weber. All right. It's almost 20 minutes, but I'm so giddy when it comes to these cards. I love Weber. Before Gearwin came out, I wanted to build a Weber deck. Weber is an alpha hunter in the present day, not the past, right? So he's in the military. They hunt alpha super villains, and I believe they work with the good alphas. But Weber's shtick is that he's a weapons kind of guy, right? He's a bombardier. I don't know if that's the term, but he has a bandolier that has different kinds of grenades, and he has this different kinds of grenades. They're actual cards, weapon cards called grenades that actually triggers when it's attached to your opponent's clash cards. So basically, Weber throws grenades to your opponents, and then it does something when your opponent does something while they have a grenade on him. And he has a lot of cards that recycles these grenades from the Oblivion. It's so cool. It's so cool. I love Weber. I want to go back to the Weber deck that I'm working on in the future, maybe. But for now, you know, I really like Gearwin, so we'll focus on Gearwin. Maybe once we get more Weber support, I'll build another Weber deck. This is our last pack, another Chaotic Unmaking. And, ooh, another Weber. See, this gets +1/+1 for each different named grenade you control until the end of turn. Another cool mechanic about words, specific words on the name of the card. Earlier in Windhoof, you have arrows, right? Weber, it's the grenade. I love it. Shadow Strike, one of the more underrated cards right now. This is probably going to blow up in the future. I'm telling you right now. Valen Solariel, Mr. Pendervik, Alpha Clash. This character, I don't know if they have a contender yet. Nah, I don't think so. But, correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, some Clash cards has, there's a split color. It's something related to the resource system of the game that maybe we can talk about in another video, right? Let me know in the comment if you're interested to hear about that. Mean Streak. I believe this is a champion card. This was designed by last year's Progenitor's Gambit champion. One of the cool prizes that you get if you become the champion of the Nationals tournament, which is the Progenitor's Gambit, is you get to design your own card with the Alpha Clash team. My brother was the champion of last year's Progenitor's Gambit, and we designed the card based on one of our favorite contenders, Warcry, which is not featured in this set, but maybe we can talk about that in another video. And that is for the Philippines, right? In the US, I don't remember the name of the champion, but I believe this is the card that they designed. Mean Streak is one of the older contenders. I believe they're from set 2, if I'm not mistaken, and they care about streak counters. Mean Streak is the Flash, the speedy dude, the A train of this of this universe. In cool character. Not that strong, to be honest with you. I mean, it's cool and all, but it hasn't won anything here, at least in the Philippines yet. But I really like the design, the idea of having these characters that gets empowered once they get more and more streak counters. So it's basically, it's well designed with the idea in mind that the faster this character becomes, the stronger they became, right? It's awesome. Entropy. We'll talk about her in the future. Another epic card. Her, I don't know if Entropy is her and it. I don't know. It's a being from maybe it's an Eldrazi. Yes. And we have another epic, Windhoof. Nice. Epics are always foils. These are the hits of the packs. And Windhoof, Arrow Storm. See, they care about arrows. Attach target white weapon you control to this without paying its attach cost. If it's tempered, draw a card. Temper, you hear that again. Fang cares about tempered weapons as well, so you can pretty much use Fangian's cards in Windhoof deck and vice versa. And Windhoof is a white-green aligned character and Fangian is a green-white aligned character, so even though they're not really like allies or something, their cards work well together. And then there's this other card in the future called Avenging Guy that cares about those kinds of arrow cards as well. So that's another card that you can mix with your Windhoof deck, right? Nice. Alright, I think that should be it for this video. There's 5 more packs open. Maybe we can talk about some other stuff in the future. Let me know what topic about Alpha Clash I should cover next. Alright, we still have a lot of packs to open. So while we're opening these packs, talking about Alpha Clash, I want to hear your thoughts, so we can make it just a conversation. I hope you had a good time. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in another one real soon. Goodbye.